Hello there, welcome to Plus Talk on Plus Life, where we're all about turning positive into a plus. Can HIV be sexy? How do you make it sexy? Well, Dr. Sonjia is here. She is an Ivy League trained sexologist, professor of medicine at the University of Miami, and a best-selling author, and a whole lot of things that makes her the authority on being able to talk about turning HIV into sexy. How are you, Doc?
I'm doing great. How are you today? Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad you're here and that we're talking about this because, let's be honest, HIV, not always a sexy topic. But it's important that those of us living with HIV somehow figure out that we can still be sexy, we can still enjoy sex, and that it's really healthy and important too. Let's kick it off with, how do you turn disclosing your HIV status? How can you make that sexy? Can you?
I think you can make almost anything sexy and sensual. If I were to say, would you have unprotected sex with me without knowing my status? That gives me a way to know about your sex risk behaviors, because if you're the type of person who is willing to have unprotected sex with me without knowing my status, maybe you're not the person I want to be having sex with. That's one. But I think anytime you can engage someone in an intellectually focused sexual conversation, it can be sexy. Like, what could we do with each other to turn each other on and not increase our risk for HIV? Can you think of something fun we might do tonight?
I mean, are you asking me? Because I could think of several things. I like that. I like that approach. I mean, look, I know I've been in a situation, more than once, where you don't necessarily know if you go on a first date or something with somebody where this is going to lead, right? And a lot of us living with HIV go, I don't need to talk about my HIV status if we're just going to meet for drinks. And then you meet for drinks and it goes well. And then maybe you meet for dinner and it goes well. And then you have a third meeting and you still haven't talked about it. And now it starts to get a bit sexy. It can be really intimidating for the person living with HIV, because you're like, now am I a liar? Have I not told? Have I not disclosed? And is this person now going to get mad at me?
Absolutely. I think it's scary to disclose anything. HIV, as we know, is a chronic manageable condition, but so many people aren't aware of how HIV has really transformed over the last couple of decades. So it's scary because you don't know if they know that people are with HIV. It doesn't mean that they're going to die necessarily or even get sick. It doesn't mean that someone without HIV is going to be able to outlive them just because they don't have HIV. And I think it's important before that third date. I love how you say the third date, because that's like the sex date, right? Like,
I
by
mean,
the third
look,
date, you should be fine.
everyone's different. Sometimes it happens right away, sometimes it doesn't.
I think it's important before you become intimate with someone, if you're really focused on experiencing your optimal pleasure, you kind of want to know how they feel about a lot of social issues. For example, I wouldn't want to take my clothes off if they voted for certain people for president, whereas some other people that might not impact their decision to get in bed with someone. So if I knew someone had had certain prejudices, I probably wouldn't want to get naked with them anyway. So it is a difficult situation, but I think that we can gauge it in different ways. Like, hey, did you know, one of my opening lines in the studies that I do here in Miami is, hey, did you know that you can have sex without a condom and not get HIV? And that immediately engages people to want to talk to me more. Like, really? And that gives me an opportunity to talk about being undetectable, how if you're undetectable, you're untransmittable. It gives me a chance to talk about PrEP, and it gives me a chance to talk about PEP. So I think before that discussion, those might be some good entry level questions to ask before. And if someone's like, no, there's no way you can have sex with someone, without a condom and not get HIV, or it'll give you, someone might say something that will let you know what, this isn't a safe space for me to disclose. This probably isn't a person who I want to become intimate with, because they might have some preconceived notions that you just don't want to fight against in order, to get down. Um, and I think those are some of the more important questions you want to ask. Is this person, do they have an open mind? Are they willing to learn? Are they progressive? Are they an ally for people like me? And if they're not an ally for people like me, I wouldn't want to have sex with them
And
anyway.
by the way, a lot of those attributes you talk about, I personally find quite sexy in a person if they are open-minded and if they are, nice like that. Shifting gears a little bit, talking about oneself and making oneself feel sexy. You don't necessarily have to have HIV for a lot of us to go, I don't like the way I look. I don't feel like a very sexy person. Most of us have some kind of body hang up we don't like about ourselves. But you throw HIV on top of that when you get an HIV diagnosis. What are maybe some tips or advice you have for people who are living with HIV who really that weighs on them and they go, I don't feel sexy. I'm never going to feel sexy. I guess what I'm asking is, help me feel sexy, doctor. How do I make myself start to feel sexy again?
Right. You want to do things for yourself where you actually feel like, I like myself. And sometimes it's an outer body experience. For example, yesterday, I took myself to a spa to get a foot massage, right? I did that for me. I would love it if someone planned that for me and took me on a date to do that, but I don't always have that opportunity. So, what would Sonjia do for herself? If Sonjia, this would be my perfect afternoon, Monday afternoon date. So I do it for myself and I feel good about living a life and doing things for myself that make me feel better. So I think one strategy and a key strategy is taking care of yourself to the point where, like, I really am doing the best by myself. I'm doing the best for Sanjaya that I can do. And when you do that, and then you're like, well, and what if I still don't feel sexy? Maybe I could do some work in the gym so I fit into the black jeans that I want to fit into, because that's really the only reason why we should all do abs, right? Is so we can fit into our black jeans. Um, and and then that's another way to feel sexy, and also looking for role models, someone who might be in a situation that's similar, who was able to find a sensual, fulfilling, satisfying sexual partner, sexual relationship. And that is what gives us hope, because I think we do all, in regardless of whatever your health situation is, there's a level of faith and hope that we bring into our dating experiences, that, like, I hope I find someone who thinks I'm great. I hope I find someone who I'm really attracted to. Um, and um, and I think those are the things you can do. But when you don't feel good about the way you're taking care of yourself, when you're eating a box of chocolates that you know you shouldn't be eating, when you're having too much alcohol that you know the next day you're going to wake up and you're not feeling good, when you skipped another day at the gym, those are things that you do. They're actually self-defeating behaviors. You're not really giving yourself a break.
Hmm.
You're giving yourself a reason to break down. And I think, a personal model, discipline or disappointment. And I know a lot of people have said that, but if you can be disciplined enough to do the things that make you feel like your best self. So when you're like, this is the best Sanjaya walking into this room, everyone else senses that energy. Everyone feels it, especially people who don't feel good about themselves, because you bring that out in them.
You're bringing out that energy. Last question in the few seconds I've got left with you. Just how good is sex for our health?
Sex is so good for our health. Not only do you end up healthier, you will also end up wealthier. And who doesn't want money and sex, right? But you're going to reduce your risk for metabolic problems like cardiovascular disease, diabetes. And we know that people who are living with HIV actually have an increased risk for cardiovascular problems. So it's really, really important to your health. And also that social interaction that you get from sex, having sex with another person, does extraordinary things for releasing those feel good hormones, which is also why you should go to the gym, because you release the exact same hormones when you go to the gym, which is why you never leave the gym and say, damn, I wish I didn't do that. You're probably more likely to say that after sex. But
Depending on who it was with. Release those endorphins. Dr. Sonjia, I wish we had more time. We're going to have a follow-up session down the line about this, because you're fantastic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Carl. Have a great day.
That's going to do it for this episode of Plus Talk. If you want more information, check out the website, pluslifemedia.com. We'll also put up all of Dr. Sonjia's social info there. Check her out across her social platforms. She has great messages all the time. Until next time, be nice to one another. If you can, get laid. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.